Um, okay, sorry guys, sorry about that. I wasn't sure whether we were recording or just doing a quick run through. So I'm going to start again. Hi, my name's Joy Coker. I'm the editor and publisher of Alt A Review. I hope you guys enjoy the screening. And can I just remind you, firstly, to keep your mics at mute. And I'm joined here today by the director, Alain Bidard of Opal, and a safeguarding worker who works with young children who have, dealt with abuse. And the name is Jamila Dyer. So we're going to start by asking Alan a question. So Alan, welcome to this Q&A. Can we first ask you what influenced your decision to make this film?
Good afternoon, Joy, and thank you for having me. Um, my decision to make this film was a decision that came because in the place where I live is Martinique. It's an island in the Caribbean, but we are French territory, so it's considered part of France. And so we are under the law of France. And in France, incest is legal. It's allowed, except for minors. And this part of the law is moving. So every 10 years or so, things are evolving. But I felt that there was a kind of problem for people to empathize with the victim. And I wanted to make a film to explore the subject and allow them to understand what is going through in the brain of a victim and why this person is going to make this type of decision.
Wonderful. And when you were making the film, how did you approach it to make sure that you dealt with the trauma that was involved, sensitively?
It's an animation film, and generally speaking, when we make an animation feature film, we have to treat a lot of limits in terms of violence, sex, trauma, a curse word. We need to pay attention to a lot of things because animation film are watched by the parents first, then they tell their kids to watch it. So there is a double audience. And for Opal, I knew that there was a problem, not a problem, but in how to present this in an animation film if we cannot use any violence, any sexuality, anything that live action has, but that we don't have. Um, and at the same time, there was the trauma, because even if we take everything off, there's still the trauma. The trauma should be something that a kid should be able to handle. The presented trauma in the film shouldn't be something that a kid would feel down after seeing this film. So I thought, why not make a fairy tale that would be understood in a different way by adults and children. This way, children would be able to understand something more Disney-esque, and the parents, the adults, would be able to understand the deeper meaning. So that was the basis of my work on Opal.
Okay, so obviously you've touched on it. Animation is a medium, is often seen as a way to tell, fantastical or light-hearted series. So what made you choose animation for this serious subject, and how did it help convey the depths of Opal?
I always wanted to use animation to make animation. I worked for 25 years. So animation was a kind of vocation. I didn't know that I would go to this type of subject. For like everyone, you start a career in animation for going on the Disney, on manga. You don't think that you're going to work into this type of subject. But when I came back to Martinique, my career was mostly my clients wanted film. They were already making film for prevention, for subjects that were deep. Uh, but they felt like, oh, it's animation, so it's going to interest kids, and the audience is going to be wider. So they were interested into this. So they asked me, would you like to work on those subjects? At the moment, I, I needed to to have more experience and make a name for myself. So I worked a lot on those type of films. And when the time came for me to start my first feature, naturally, I wanted to continue doing that because I felt like animation was helping people to understand it was doing something good to the society. And I wanted to keep going into this moral and ethical direction. So
Wonderful. While we're talking on the subject of abuse, I'm going to bring in Jamila. So, Jamila, the first question I would actually ask you, for someone who works in safeguarding, firstly in the Black community, do you find that even though abuse happens in the Black community, it is less likely to be talked about? But firstly, can you maybe explain a little bit about what you do with your organisation?
Sure, thank you. Yes, so I am a senior social worker at the charity Africa. I previously worked in local authorities and in schools, but right now working in the charity sector. So social work here is a little bit different. You can't really see the logo behind me. We switched it off so people can see. That's the logo for our charity. We have been around since 2001, and that was as a result of the death of Victoria Climbié. So in response to her death, well, unfortunately she was killed by her caregiver and her caregiver's boyfriend. So Afaruka was started to try and combat the number of children that we were seeing who had recently arrived in the UK and were dying at the hands of their caregivers. So our whole ethos is around protecting children, safeguarding them from cultural harm or any type of abuse. But that was quite a long time ago, so we have expanded since then. And my role right now in my team is we work with a lot of parents. So we work with local authorities all across the UK who refer parents who have some sort of children's services involvement, whether their children are still at home with them or whether their children are in care. So we offer parents parenting intervention, some support, advocacy. We can speak to local authority where if they think there's discrimination happening, we can advocate for them and just try and move this family forward, try and keep things safe for this family and these children. So just to go back to your question about whether I think that the Black community is less likely to talk about child abuse. Unfortunately, yes, I think from my experience of working with them, what we've seen is a number of different responses to child abuse concerns and allegations that have been made. And I think the contributing factors tend to be around culture, religion, and also themes of shame and pride, where we see in lots of cultures within the Black community, and I say cultures because there are many cultures within the Black community. Yeah, there's a lot of importance on privacy and dealing with things within the home, even unfortunately when that means the perpetrator is also in the home, like we've seen with the film Opal. Yeah, lots of people feel like they want to manage things themselves. They don't want external people coming in, telling them what to do or poking their nose in their business. They want to deal with things, but sometimes that means things aren't dealt with. We also see religion, where sometimes religious text and scripture is misinterpreted as an excuse for children to be abused, more commonly physical abuse. But in our work at Africa, we've seen it become quite extreme, where scripture has been used to kind of excuse some of these things. And then some other things as well, shame and pride. A lot of families feel like if a child makes that allegation disclosure of any type of child abuse, it reflects badly on them as a parent. And depending on their communities and how they engage with them, that can be a real source of shame for them. Where maybe sometimes in some communities, people tend to try and impress other people to, talk about all the good things that are happening in their family. But when it's something like abuse, it can be quite shameful and can cause people to shut down or just not discuss and not talk about it. But then that can be quite dangerous because what also happens is we've had some families, some individuals who've said that, no, child abuse doesn't happen, especially child sexual abuse doesn't happen within our countries, within our communities, our cultures. It's a European thing, happens to white people. But actually, we know very well that it does happen in all communities, all cultures. It doesn't matter your race or your background. No one is exempt from the potential of child abuse. So yeah, unfortunately, I think it's for these different reasons why the Black community tends to be less likely to talk about it. I think there are other reasons as well, such as fear of intervention, fear of social services, and things like that. But it's from the work that I've done. These are some of the common things that I have seen.
Wonderful. Thank you. So go back to you, Alan. Can you talk about a little bit about you growing up in Martinique and how that might have influenced your perspective on culture, identity, and history? Maybe share a little bit about how your upbringing may have shaped, the vision you have in terms of like storytelling.
Martinique is an island in the Caribbean and with a tumultuous history because there was black slavery. Black slavery was abolished in 1848, and but after that it was not really a complete freedom. It was much more okay, we are free, but we still need to rely on those previously masters to operate in the island. They also tried to replace the people who were enslaved by immigrants from India, from China, and from Congo too. Until during 1 century, we remain in a situation where we didn't know exactly if we belong to France, if we are French citizen or not. And after that, we had a very powerful figure, Aimé Césaire, who fought to include us into the French system. So we became French, but at the same time, in terms of justice, we're not really equal to people in the mainland French, the French mainland. So in terms of cinema, artistic expression, the problem is that we are not considered true core part of France, and when we want to present ourselves in cinema, especially movies that are going to be seen by a lot of people out of France, France don't want this kind of representation. So Black people, Asian people, Arabs people, anyone who is not white tend to be pushed away from the spotlight. So when you are a Black person, you need to find a way to make movies without depending on France, because France is going to block quite a lot of things, and they're only going to let you do let you make your film if your film is using some representation that is negative. For example, the Jezebel, the mummies, the prostitutes, those type of things is the Uncle Tom. If we do that, yes, we can go through, but it's detrimental to the culture. So what I do myself, during all my career, I developed a system that allowed me to create my film by myself, and that reduced a lot of cost and give me this possibility to make this type of animation feature film Whereas other tried, but they didn't succeed because they don't have the money to pay for more people. There has been other what tried in the French system, but when a black director creates something in France, France constantly put a white co-director to redirect the message for something more, quote, mainstream. So I'm operating completely out of this system, and in France, there is no secrecy about the project. So generally, you create something, the script, everybody know about the script really early on. I don't do that because of that, because of the fact that the script is known really early. A lot of people have tried to destroy a project before it's even shot. So by keeping secrecy, by maintaining the budget really low, by developing scripts and programming that allow me to not have to constantly hire other people, I succeed to get those movies made. So that is quite the type of battles that you have that is really specific to France. But well, I think it's everywhere where the Black community is. We have some kind of battle like this. France also don't like to. They're really concentrated on their reputation, so they don't like to admit that there is a racial problem or there is a racial discrimination. So they prefer to erase us. Uh, so there's this. And also in French culture, there are two types of black in the eye of white people. There are the black American that is with the archetype of Will Smith, Denzel Washington. So those are the acceptable the acceptable black archetype, but the French black is not acceptable and is not considered as a black American. So um, that's a culture. We have to, if we want to make movies in France, we have to consider all that. And
Wonderful, wonderful.
unfortunately.
Alain, so you kind of touched on funding and how difficult it is to get funding for a lot of Black filmmakers, even though you are in Martinique. So can you quickly elaborate? Something that we spoke about before was how you managed to make Opal. Could you elaborate on that? Because you're talking about how you do everything apart from actually the voiceovers.
Yes, there's a lot of things that I have to do myself. So generally speaking, this type of film should hire at least 30 people. Spread all the parts and what need to be done, modeling, well, script, storyboard, modeling, texture, animation, compositing, um, voice recording, sound effects, music. So all of those should be one different person, one specific person. But because I have to keep the budget compact, I had to do this myself. So there were some things that I had to learn because I've been in a private school for learning how to make films, but I didn't learn music. I didn't learn sound effect. I didn't learn mixing. Even in my own art, because there is a lot of discipline. There were disciplines that I didn't learn. So I had to learn everything while I was working, while I was working for clients. So music has been something that I've learned really late. I had to learn to program too. because well, when we are at school, we never imagined that we would have to try to reprogram the tools that we are going to use. So a lot of knowledge that give me this possibility to reduce price. So this is about that. The programming, for example, there is when you take the for the character to move, you need to put a virtual skeleton, and this skeleton take around between 3 hours and 10 hours to be built for every character. I succeed to develop a program that reduces this time in 3 seconds. So it's a lot of those little programs that give me that speed and give me this possibility to do something that is difficult to do without those programming and those little things. For the money, there is I always ask to the government because we never know, but generally it's a no. So there is two possibilities. I can make the duration of the production last a bit longer, giving me this possibility to grab some money from contract. I can also, when the film is completed at 80%, sponsors accept to pay a part of the budget in exchange for their logo to be shown. So that is a possibility too. So those are possibilities that give you that allows the film to be completed without selling your soul, I'm going to say. So this is generally what I do.
Wonderful. Thank you again, Alain. We're going to go back to Jamila. Just a really quick question, which obviously is not really a question that you could potentially answer very quickly, but could you maybe give it a bit of a overview of how would parents perhaps approach if they think their child is being abused, and maybe mention what are some of the things in the UK that are available to someone if they need to seek help, perhaps, including your organisation, of course.
Yeah, so I guess I guess the first part of the question about what the signs parents should look out for, I would say just a change in the child's behavior. It's knowing what is normal for your child and knowing when something is changing, whether it's behavior, friendship groups, sleeping, how comfortable they feel or uncomfortable they feel around others. I think that's the best known thing to do. And it's also just really having those conversations really openly and being direct. We find that younger children, especially when it comes to child sexual abuses specifically, tend to go unnoticed because they don't have the right language. So giving them the right language, asking them questions about their experiences, finding out if they feel uncomfortable, or if anyone made them keep a secret or anything is bothering them is probably the best way to do it, which is quite general, but it's very effective. And when it comes to seeking advice, what support is available to them. There's quite a few different things that can be made available to children, such as counselling, different types of therapy, play therapy, regular therapy, family therapy. Sometimes schools can offer to help provide those things. Africa, we can offer some support and guidance. We are currently in the process of trying to come up with this parental forum advocacy support, but that's still in the works. But it's mainly, I think the first thing is to get it out there, reach out for support, and then once that's happened, the right support can be identified for that child.
Wonderful, thank you. And back to you, Alain. What would you like the audience to take away from this film?
What I would like the audience to take away from the film, it depends if they're adult or if they are minors. But for the adult, it's already being able to understand what is going through the brain of somebody who has been abused. That it's not so simple. For example, in France, I heard a lot of people say, "Oh, why did she take I don't know, 10 or 15 years to file a complaint, or why did she forget?" Or people who don't understand why people are freezing when they are being abused. Oh, if she freezes, it's because finally it's not really an abuse. So I wanted them to understand that there's a big part of the brain that we don't control, uh, and that play a role in all those decisions. And also, um, not everybody know, if you go in the street and talk to people, not everybody knows a superego. This is a strange concept for a lot of people, but it is really important in the case of incest, because the person that is the harmful person is building himself or herself inside the victim. Um, and explaining this to people, that will bring a bit of empathy. People are going to be able to understand that there is much more than just, "Oh, I'm going to take a decision if I'm going to file a complaint or not. Oh, I'm waiting because I'm lazy, or I don't want to take this responsibility." So it's an explanation that can, I hope, bring more solution. And also, people who have been abused too, when they're going to watch Opal, I believe that those emotions in the end of the film, the anger, the shame, the pride, and all that, a lot of people don't know what to do with that, and they are completely like this ball in a pinball, and they don't have control. And I believe that the message that is given by those little clone help a lot people to understand that what they're feeling is natural, and they have the power to control it. And if they don't, it takes time, but this is normal. So I wanted them to make some sense, to make some sense of the experience that they are going through. And for the children, I already wanted them to integrate this the fact that there is a limit in the connection between a parent and their child, uh, and that they need to be aware, because they are put in this world, and this is the adults that build up their environment until they reach the age of 18, when they can really test things for real. So if they could just live with this, there is a limit. This way, if this limit is broken, they at least they can know that there is something wrong. And that was not planned when I made the film, but we have noticed that when children who have been abused watch the film, they are they do understand exactly what the adults understand, because technically children who have not been abused are just going to they are just going to understand the fairy tale, but nothing beyond. But the children who have been abused understand everything. Some of them are even uneasy during the screening. So it's maybe a tool to 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 be able to detect if a child has been exposed to this type of abuse and trauma. So that is what I would want the audience to leave the screening with.
Thank you. Now we're going to open it up to questions from the audience. And we have a question yet here from, I think it's Oni Sade, and she's asking, what about the parents who may have not addressed their own? And I'll say to Jamila.
Yeah. I'm not sure, is that question about the signs or about the support? Because it's quite difficult. And in the work that I do, the work that is done mostly with parents, and say, for example, we're discussing childhoods or experience of parenting and things like that. Often we find child sexual abuse comes up within that parent's experience that's not really been addressed. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of avenues for specifically around that for adults other than counseling and therapy. I think what a lot of people are looking for is some sort of like a support group. And I think we find that these are things that people set up by themselves, slightly different from what is government run. But it's mainly counseling and therapy. But if you can find your own circle and get that support, that's really beneficial to a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know what to say about that, but I kind of do feel that that is an issue because it's easy for you to say, oh yeah, that they can just go out and get help. Many of them may not even see that they need help. They've maybe had this in their family, gone for generations and generations. I'm talking about my own self. My name is Yewande, and I know that trauma, I was traumatized as a child. I had two children early, and that was really in direct relation to the trauma in a way, because I didn't have anything to love or anything to love me from a very early age. I knew I was by myself. And as much as I love my children today, I'm working towards, as well as all those other emotions, the hate, the shame, the anger, the fear, all those things that were documented that I saw that really touched me. Thank you to the director. Amazing, right? But there's a lot of parents out there. You can have all this lovely little language on your leaflet saying, these are the signs, here they are. But yeah, that just sounds like governmental stuff. You've got to take cultural factors. You've got to take so much into consideration. There are a lot of parents who think it was the norm to have this happen. Let's look at all of that. Let's put the red tape aside somehow. We have to be really real. It's a huge issue, a very big wrong to society when you take a child's power, and there are far too many out there. And I think this film will work wonders with people who are trained and observant and are willing to go out there and start kicking ass and changing things because it's not getting better. It's not happening that, our children are suffering less now because of AI or because of TikTok.
Yeah, so if I just, sorry, just to follow into that, just apologies. I wasn't saying that, this is, you can't have to deal with it by yourself. It's just as what is available for support, there just isn't a lot from what I've seen, unfortunately. And I do agree that we do need more support for adults specifically, because, there isn't a lot for children, there's even less for adults. So what we found in terms of support groups are things that people have done out of necessity because there isn't another option. Not saying that should be where we leave things.
Okay, so there are not any more questions in the chat. So I'm just going to finish with Alain saying, Alain, what are the plans for the film? I know it's done the festival circuit. What do you want to see happen next with this film?
The film is so it's finishing its festival tour, and it succeeded to win more than 250 awards and 300 nominations. So I hope that this is strong for giving it this power to become a voice in many places. So I'm working with Kush TV and with Marlon to make the film available in the UK and in other countries. I'm also, for example, in the United States, there's Amazon and Tubi, Apple TV, France. Not France. There is distributor that an exhibitor that is already on board. So we're going to see where this is going to go. And from Jamaica, from United States, and some part of Europe, there has been doctors, therapists, and psychologists that would like to include the film in some type of program for helping the victim and explaining better what is happening.
Are there any more questions? Are there any more questions from the audience?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Corinne. Great film, Alain. Yeah,
Thank
you. Very interesting. Yeah, excellent. So, and you said that, yeah, people are looking at it now. That's fabulous. What do you have planned for the future? Not far future, but where's it taking you?
For my entire career, or for just this film?
Maybe a bit of both.
This film, I would like it to be able to reach the widest amount of audience possible, because I believe that it is about to help a lot of people. Because, for example, in France, 10% of the entire population of France have suffered from child abuse. So this is really huge. And for my next films, I'm going to keep working on subjects that are not often expressed in cinema. I'm going to, for example, my next film is going to be about domestic abuse, and after that, I'm going to talk about endometriosis and how people deal with that. There is also Alzheimer, and anything that can help and give people some tools to better their daily life. Things that are not addressed by Disney or the mainstream animation. So that is what I plan to do.
Thank you. That's great. Yeah, I look forward to it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Corinne. Is there anyone else who'd like to ask a question? Okay, it's not seen any more questions. It's absolutely fine. I'm going to go back to Jamila, perhaps to end with something about, are there any organisations in the UK that parents can reach out to, or young people can reach out to, that you would perhaps recommend?
There are different number of organizations, and I think it depends on what type of abuse or type of harm and what people are going through. Because we find that one of the most common sort of things that can happen as a result of abuse is, people struggling with their mental health. So different mental health services for young people, Young Mind is really, really good. Bernardo's offers a few different organizations. There's also a specific group within them that is specifically for Black and global majority communities. Also, Africa, where I work, our charity, we do a lot of different things supporting young people and their families who do find themselves, dealing with children's services involvement, maybe for the first time, maybe on an ongoing basis. So we have a telephone that we answer regularly with different inquiries, different calls, and even if we don't offer a service ourselves, we're able to pinpoint and signpost a different service that we feel could better support those needs of that family. But also, depending on where people live, there's different smaller groups that are available in different local authorities, different towns, different areas. So if yeah, if it's not something we have it within inside our organization, we're able to find someone or link up with someone can help with that as well. Oh, sorry, Joe, you're on mute.
I am on mute. Jamila and Alain, thank you so much for taking the time to do this Q&A on behalf of Kush Films. And just say thank you so much to everyone who's joined us on this Sunday afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thank you.